Lyme disease, or disease, real cause. What's going on, Secoya Nation? Dr. Schilling here, bringing you today's daily wisdom. And people have been appreciating us touching on the concept of what the real cause of something behind this. So, first of all, take into consideration that every single person on the planet carries the Borrelia bacteria in their body. And some people might dispute that, but I work with thousands of people. And it's not just because we're in the Midwest. It's because there are bugs in our bodies. There are 50 trillion cells, 500 trillion different bacteria, mold, fungus, parasite, virus, in and on us. These aren't new, and they didn't come from a tick or a mosquito or a biting flea or anything else that's flying around or crawling around or anything like that. When you know that these are in everybody and everywhere, then you know that you don't have to be afraid of ticks or fleas or mosquitoes or whatever it is. Nor do you have to be afraid of Lyme disease, because if you know what the perfect storm is, the perfect storm was happened back in like 1991, for those of you who were alive then. And it was a culmination of all these different things that came together and created this storm. So that's what happens when Lyme disease happens, because you get labeled with something. And that label says you are now less than a human being. You're now a disease. You now have to be managed by the conditions with the antibiotics and everything else that's associated with that, because that's all they have to treat you with. So take a step back and say, if I've been given a diagnosis, what is the meaning behind it? Because a bunch of symptoms put in a box with a name on is just simply your opportunity to understand yourself better and what your stressors are. So let's talk a little bit about what the real cause of Lyme disease is, because it's not Borrelia burgdorferi, which is one of 500 different varieties of Borrelia, if you didn't know. Lyme is actually the name of a town in Connecticut, Old Town Lyme and New Town Lyme. If you didn't know that, look it up, because Willie Burgdorfer from the University of Minnesota flew out there back in the 70s and codified the bug Borrelia burgdorferi, which then made it a world, well, some people say that they took the bacteria Borrelia and took it to the Plum Island lab and they made it a weapon for bioweapons and for war and things like that. Whatever your story is, this bacteria is not new and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So, if you have any issues with feeling unlovability, unworthiness, deep emotional fears, if you're trying to measure up to some standard, these are things that are going to cause you to have the symptoms of Lyme disease. A perfectionistic parent, some high standards you either set for yourself or learn to set by watching other people. These are really important. It could be driven by fear, internal turmoil, it could be lies, conflicts, all the different stressors that are behind it, because all you're seeing is the symptoms that say, well, you don't have enough bands on the Western blot or the ELISA test to say you have a guaranteed diagnosis, so what you need is just take these antibiotics and it'll all go away. But if you know anything about Lyme disease, antibiotics are completely ineffective at treating it, because they're treating a bug. And if you have 500 trillion on your body and you're trying to treat one of them, that is what's called a losing proposition. So if you experience a separation or a devaluation conflict from one of your family members, let's say a parent was absent for a while, or they spoke to you sternly during a very highly charged emotional time, and you then took it personally and like, oh, there must be something wrong with me because they spoke to me that way. Because if you understand that your parents are basically perfect in some ways, shape, or form, because you don't want to get kicked out of your tribe, you don't want to be abandoned by the people who are there to feed you, you don't want to upset your parents. So you tend to tiptoe around them, make sure they're happy, not disappoint them, do whatever it takes to get the good grades or be the good sportsman or sportswoman or whatever it is for you. But when you have a self-devaluation conflict, when you look down upon yourself and you think less of yourself, these are the key ingredients. Like, this is where the perfect storm comes in, and every person's different. That's why you can't treat Lyme disease with one thing. It's not just one thing. No one thing cures any one thing, and no one thing causes any one thing. So take a step back and say, okay, I've been labeled with this. I'm going to use that information to go find someone or some people that are going to help me understand what the meaning is. Because my standard for myself and people, when we were participants, is I want to know what's the issue, where's it coming from, how to get rid of it, and how to never have it again. Now, I'm not looking to kill a bug off. I'm not looking for an antibiotic or an antifungal, antiparasitic, or antibacterial to kill something off, because there's 500 trillion of them. They're not going anywhere, and if you kill them all off, you'll be dead, because they're your immune system. So take a step back and say, if I've been given a label, I need to find meaning behind it. It's not enough to say, oh, hi, my name's Lyme disease, and that's it. You get a name tag, just sign yourself up for purgatory, because it's going to suck from now on. Take a step back. Seek out some people that are actually going to give you some reasonings behind your issues, rather than another label, rather than another pill for a symptom, rather than you feel like crap. I mean, in our clinic, we use pulse magnetic therapy, we use detox, we use herbal remedies, we use homeopathics, we use brain work, because if you don't change your brain, nothing about your life will ever change permanently. I can give you an antibiotic, or Dr. Jessica can give you an antibiotic, not me, and you might feel better for a little bit, but guess what's going to happen when you stop taking it? All your symptoms are coming back. When you understand that, you can say, I'm not going to give myself a pill for a symptom. I'm going to get to the root cause, figure out what the brain pattern is, figure out the combination between the relationship and the stress and the lack of ability to get my toxins out of my body and my lack of energy. Maybe I'm not getting enough sleep. Maybe I'm on my phone too late trying to find a connection with someone that I actually feel validated by. All this stuff plays a role. So it's so multifactorial. There's so many different parts coming in. We have to figure out what your stuff is. What are you dealing with? How can you be related to as a human being and not a diagnosis? That's the key today, okay? That's your wisdom for today. Ditch the diagnosis. Get the answers you need. Get some wisdom from someone who has actually worked with people that has actually healed from this, instead of labeling you and telling you you're going to be sick the rest of your life and just suck it up because you got, chronic Lyme. Okay? That gets you nowhere. Anyone who tells you you have a disease, fire them, because diseases are made up by humans. Bunch of words put together, name on top of it, it's called a disease. They don't exist. They're made up by humans. Don't let someone label you. Don't let someone talk down to you. Don't let someone ask you, like, how's your Lyme today? How are you doing? How's your family? How are your kids? How is your partner? How's school going? How are your sports? Whatever it is. Find a team that's going to connect with you as a human being. Okay? That's your key today. Work with people who are going to love you through it. Work with people who are going to empower you through it. Become the person you have to be in order to have the health you desire. That's what it's all about. If you don't change who you are, you're destined to have this illness, this dis-ease, or something else in the future. So that's your wisdom for today. All right, guys? Hope we've served you at a higher level. Hope we've expanded your consciousness. Hope we've challenged some of your belief systems, and hope you then challenge everyone else in your life to say, I'm sick and tired of being labeled this. I'm sick and tired of living down to this. Help me help myself, because I can't see out of my own little jar here. All right, guys? Have a good night. Peace out.